Here's a hot take for you. Pickleball coaches should not teach technique first. They shouldn't technique till down the road. What they should do is they should introduce tactics, right? Or what some people call strategy. They're different, but you get the idea. Tactics should come first. Technique should come later. Here's a hot take for you. Pickleball coaches should not teach technique first. They shouldn't technique till down the road. What they should do is they should introduce tactics, right? Or what some people call strategy. They're different, but you get the idea. Tactics should come first. Technique should come later. Now, why is that? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say that I showed you 3 objects. I showed you a spoon, I showed you a shovel, and I showed you a hat. A spoon, a shovel, and a hat. And I said to you, which one's the best tool? Which one should I use? And you would look at me like I was crazy because you would not understand the question. Or you'd have to ask a follow-up question. You'd have to say, well, Mark, I don't know. What is it that you're trying to do? And I say, oh, I'm trying to keep the sun off my big forehead. Don't want to get sunburn. And then you say, oh, well, obviously the hat is the best tool. Or if I said to you that I was trying to dig a hole, you'd say, dude, grab the shovel, obviously. That's the best tool. The tools that we use have to be a function of what it is that we're trying to get done. What job are we trying to accomplish? Otherwise, we can't easily assess what tool is the right one. Right? There's a dialogue that goes on between the tool we use and the outcome that we're trying to get. Right? Those things work together. What I often see with pickleball coaches who immediately go to technique, especially when they have new players. Make contact with the ball here. Hold your paddle like this. Do this with your non-dominant arm. Start to use your legs a little bit more. What they're doing by talking about technique is they're talking about tools, right? How they're using their body and their paddle. But we use our body and our paddle, we use technique, not because it looks good. Pickleball is not like synchronized swimming or gymnastics. You don't win because it's pretty. You don't win because you do the right movement better than the other people do. You win in pickleball because you put the ball in play once more than the other team does. Right? That's the goal here. That's the outcome that we're trying to achieve, is how do we get the ball in play once more than the other team? And we're going to do that with a whole bunch of different methods. Sometimes the method is to make your opponents run. Sometimes it is to take away their time to react. Sometimes it is to aim for a weakness. Sometimes it is to steal time by coming forward to the net. Sometimes it's to put the ball in an uncomfortable position or put spin on the ball that they're not going to be able to figure out. There's all these different tactics that we use to solve this problem, to accomplish this goal. But only once those tactics are clear, how are we going to do this? What are we trying to do to our opponents? Then we can start to talk about the technique that will allow us to do that. And so that's why I say pickleball coaches, don't start with technique. Start with the tactics. What are we trying to do here? If we're working with brand new players, maybe we say, hey, you know what the tactic here is? We're going to keep the ball in play. We're going to pressure our opponents by being so steady, so consistent. We never miss. Wouldn't you like to be that person who, when they walk on the court, the opponents say, oh, shoot, here comes Betty. Never misses a ball. She's so steady. Steady Betty. Betty says, yeah, I would like to be that person. Okay, great. Let's talk about some of the technical skills you need in order to be really consistent, right? Or let's say someone comes to you and they say, you know what? I play this person every week and it's so easy for them when they're at the net. I hit too slow. I can't overpower them. We say, okay, great. We'd love to apply some pressure through speed by hitting harder, giving them less time to react. Yeah, okay, great. Now we can talk about the technique that will allow us to do that. So tactics should always come first. What are we trying to do? And then we can have the question about how do we do that? What technique will allow us to get the job done? Because if I'm trying to keep the shade off my big old forehead, the shovel is not going to be the one that does it. Welcome to Pickleball Coaches podcast. I'm your host, Mark Renneson. This is the podcast where, we talk about pickleball, but not mainly about pickleball. Well, kind of. We talk about coaching. All sorts of podcasts out there. I love watching all these shows where they talk about what's going on in the pickleball world today, the drama from the tournaments, how paddle technology is changing, the wars between competing tours. All that stuff is great. And it's very exciting and it's very entertaining. I don't hear a lot of people talking about coaching. And so we started Pickleball Coaches podcast as a way to respond to that, as a way to give you, if you're a pickleball coach, or maybe you're someone who wants to become a pickleball coach, a chance to kind of think more about coaching pickleball. So that's what we do here on Pickleball Coaches podcast. Now, Pickleball Coaches podcast is run by Pickleball Coaching International. I started that a number of years ago, and PCI, Pickleball Coaching International, that is what we do, pickleball coach education. You can learn more about this over at pcipickleball.com if you want. And whether you're an instructor who's currently coaching, looking for resources, or whether you're a coach who wants to get started in pickleball, we have our instructor certification program. It's cool because it's kind of, it's very convenient. It's all online. Anyway, that's what we do. And that's what this show is about, is addressing coaching problems. All right, this is the part of the show where we address your questions, your pickleball coaching problems. And the first one we have is from Andrew Anderson from Toronto, Ontario. And he says, "Hey, Mark, I have a problem. I run a group lesson. It's a group drop-in lesson, up to 12 people, and we regularly have different skill levels. How do I manage them?" Okay, so Andrew, this is a great question. What do you do when you have different pickleball skill levels, but all within the same group? And this is a problem that I hear from people quite a lot, right? And it is a challenging one because even if you say, hey, this is our 3.0 drill session, right? Or it's our 3.0, 3.5 clinic, you're always going to have a range, right? You're going to have a range of skill levels within that, and it's really tough to manage. So I got a couple of tips for you here, Andrew. So first thing to do is use competition as a way to sort the players. Here's what I mean by that. You could go out there, and I'm sure you're an experienced coach, Andrew, and you could say, hey, I've got these 12 people, and you know what, you four, you're kind of the stronger ones, you're going to go to court number 1, and you four, you're the weaker ones, you're going to go to court 3, and you four, you're right in the middle, we're going to put you in court number 2. I bet you could do that, and you could organize those people appropriately. Here's the problem with that, is that the people who are on that lower court, they might not think that they belong in the lower court. They might think, no, I belong in the middle court, maybe even the top court. Right? I can play with those guys. And so what's going to happen now is you've created a potential for a conflict, right? Or they have negative feelings toward you because they perceive that you put them in the wrong place. So here's my suggestion instead. Once you've warmed up and you've had lots of rotations, everyone's kind of hit balls with each other, you say, hey, everyone, we're going to have a little contest here. And it's going to be a one-on-one half court down the line, what we often call skinny singles. And you just play some points. One person feeds the ball, play it out down the line. And you've got your 12 people, so 6 matches going on at once. Alternate serve so it's fair if you want, and make those rotations quick, 90 seconds, let's say. And what will happen is the winner, they're all going to move one direction. Let's say all the winners move towards court number 1, like half a court. And if you don't win, the non-winners, you move down half a court toward court 3. And if you have enough of these rotations where the winners move up and the losers move down, I don't know, you got 12 people. Let's say you had 6 rotations of 90 seconds each. Right? You're spending just over 10 minutes doing the whole thing. By the time you have those rotations, presumably your stronger players would have won their way up towards court 1. Your weaker players would have lost their way down towards court 3. And your middle players will be kind of right there in the middle in court number 2. And that way, as you go forward, when you do your drills, when you do your activities throughout your lesson, people will work with the players on the court where they are, and they've sort of self-selected because they've won their way up or they've lost their way down. And then that way, if someone's unhappy with the court that they're on, they're not going to come and say, hey, Andrew, how come I'm on the lower court? Well, they might say that. And then you say, oh, well, remember when we played the up and down game and sorry, you lost a bunch of games, right? It's not going to be on you to do that. You're not going to be the bad guy. And it also creates the incentive for them to become better, right? So they win more of those one-on-one games. So that's my first suggestion to you is to separate players through some kind of competition. Make it one-on-one because as we know in a doubles game, you could be a really strong player and I'm a weak player and I really bring you down, right? Or you really carry the team. So that's why I like these one-on-one skinny singles because if you're winning, it's because you won. And if you're losing, it's because you lost. And then you've got your players organized. Beyond that, what you can do is you can do the same activities with all your players. You can just adjust the challenge. So for example, let's say you're working on, I don't know, what do people often work on? Returning serve deep in the court, right? And you've got your 3 courts. Number 1 is your top court, number 3 is your bottom, number 2 is in the middle. They could all be doing the same drill, trying to return deep past a cone. But on the top court, that cone could be deeper, more toward the baseline, right? And so for it to count as a good return, it's got to be extra deep. And the middle court, the cone could be a little bit shorter. And the weaker court of the ball, the cone could be even shorter than that, right? And so it's kind of like the Goldilocks rule, right? And you're making sure we find just the right fit. And you could do everyone having the same experience, doing the same drills. You could even have a competition between courts if you wanted. And everyone's doing the same thing, but with slightly different challenges. And so that's my suggestion to you is like, try to keep the lesson the same for everybody. Just tweak the degree of difficulty by changing the targets, or you can change scoring, or you can add more movement or things like that. But organize your players through competition right off the bat, and then modify the drills slightly, mainly by modifying the targets so everyone's having the right amount of challenge.
Hey, have you heard of the new Play More app?
No, what is it?
Basically, the Play More app is like a stress-free scheduling app for pickleballers. So I don't know, we've struggled a lot in group text trying to organize play. You'll set it up and somebody will just like the text. And I'm like, does that actually mean you're coming or not?
Yeah, and it's like, you never know how many people you have, like what rating they are. It's kind of annoying.
It can kind of just be a nightmare to try to organize groups because group texts are just not fun. So basically the Play More app lets you send out invitations. You get an RSVP list. If somebody doesn't show, there's a wait list that will actually like put somebody right into.
No way.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Dang, that's awesome. What's it called?
It's called the Play More app. So you should download it at the App Store, or you can go to getplaymore.com if you want to look at it online.
Our next question comes from Caitlin R., and she's in Lehigh, Pennsylvania. Okay, Caitlin says, when I'm doing a private lesson, how do I plan for it? Okay, great question, Caitlin. So private lessons are unique, right? One, they're usually a premium product, so people are paying a little bit more money to be there with them. And 2, it really should be personalized, right? And as much as we want our group coaching to really feel personal, the private lesson really should be personal. And this is a private lesson, whether it's with 1, 2, or I'd say even 3 people for your private lesson. So how do you do that? Well, you can't really plan them in advance the way you can with your typical group lessons, right? A typical group lesson, you have a theme, you've planned it out, how you're going to manage all these people, what you're going to work on. Very often private lessons, when people come to you, they're going to say one of 2 things, right? You do your meet and greet and you say, hi, I'm Caitlin. Really happy you're here. What is it you'd like to work on today? And they're going to say one of 2 things. Either they're going to say, I don't know, you're the coach. That's what we pay you the big bucks for. You tell me. Or they're going to come with a laundry list of all the things that they want to get better at. Those are typically the 2 kinds of answers you're going to get when you say to your private lesson people, hey, what do you want to work on? Now, in the case where they give you the laundry list, okay, great. So what you need to do is you need to hear those 4 or 5 things, and you need to kind of prioritize, well, which ones are going to be most important? Which ones are we going to be able to address most effectively in this lesson, right? So if, for example, someone says, hey, I really want to become better at hitting a tweener. So when I get lobbed and I can't get it out of the air, I run back and I send it back between my legs. Okay, that's something someone might want to work on. The other thing that they may want to work on is getting their serve in the court. And so you as the coach have to kind of guide the decision. And again, it could be theirs in the end. I mean, they're the ones who are there. They're paying the big bucks. If they say, no, I really want to work on the tweener, then you work on the tweener. But I think what you can do is use your influence and use your expertise to say, hey, both of these things are really interesting. To me, the serve is kind of more the priority, because if we can't serve, we can't play. So why don't we concentrate on that first? And if we have some time later on in the lesson, then we'll work on the tweener. So I find that you can kind of guide them about what are kind of the most important priorities. And then that way you spend most of your time on the stuff that really matters and maybe a little bit less time on the stuff that doesn't. Now, what about that second kind of answer, which is, I don't know what to work on. You're the coach, you tell me. So this case is a little bit different. In this case, you need to see the player. You need to see what they can do. So I suggest starting to hit some balls with them, warming up. And even as you're warming up, give them some variety. Send some balls faster or slower, higher, lower, put some spin on it. And it's still cooperative. It should still feel like the warm up. But this is when you're really kind of doing like your analysis, right? You're scanning. What stands out to you? Oh, wow, they've got a really like relaxed looking backhand. That's amazing. Ooh, their forehand is really kind of tense. Paddle sort of wobbles when they hit it. Interesting. And you don't have to solve these problems right away, right? You're just kind of doing the analysis. You're giving an overall look. After you've warmed up, dinks and volleys and ground strokes and lobs and overheads and serves and returns and drops and drives, I would say this: hey, I want to see what you got. I want to see you in action now that we're all warmed up. So let's play some points. Let's play some down the line skinny singles points. We can pretend your partner's amazing. I'm not going to hit to her. You can pretend my partner's amazing. You're not going to hit to him. We're just going to hit to each other, but we're going to play real points. And as you play these real points, half court, so it simulates doubles, now is the chance to really like press, really sort of test. How do they handle it when I drive that third shot at them? Do they like it when I lob, or do they panic? Have they, oh wow, every time we've played, they've hit 80% of their third shots as drops and not drives. Interesting. And this is where you do your assessment. And you need to kind of keep a mental checklist about what it is that you're seeing, right? What is it that's happening out there on the court? Once you've played those points, I don't know, let's say you've played 10 points total, and you bring your person in and you say, hey, player, really great effort out there. I love that. We had some really good points, some good rallies. Here is what I saw. And then this is where you need to share in a clear and concise manner what it is that you just observed with your players. Hey, I noticed that you really use the third shot drop quite a lot and rarely the drive. Was that intentional? Can you tell me more about that? Or, hey, I noticed that when I sent balls to your backhand, you looked really comfortable, but when I sent it to your forehand, a little bit less so. Or, hey, I noticed that when I would lob you, you're really quick at getting back for that ball, which was great, but then often you wouldn't recover back up toward the non-volley line until a shot or two later. Here's why that matters. And this is where you do kind of the debrief of your observations. The idea here is not for them to feel like you're attacking them, right? Or you're just listing off all the things they do badly. No one likes that. What a sad job that would be as a coach. But this is your chance to let them know what it is that you saw. And from here now that you have your own laundry list that you've created, now you need to decide, okay, what is it that's going to be most important for us to work on, right? What are our order of operations here? What are the priorities? And ideally, you're not just telling them what they're going to be, but you get that buy-in from them. It's a dialogue. Hey, so there's a couple of things here is that we need to work on your recovery, getting back up to the net after being lobbed. And we need to work on you having a little more variety on your third shots. Which would you like to start with? Right? And then they can kind of make the choice from there, or they might say to you, I don't know, what do you think? And I'd say, well, how about we talk about variety first, right? And then you go into that. So that's my suggestion to you, Caitlin, is you do need to think on the fly. That's why private lessons are more challenging, because you often have to make up the lesson plan as you go. Ask them what they want to work on. If they give you a list, find the priorities. If they don't have a list, then you need to assess them. You need to test them out through real game play. Okay. And then from there, make your own laundry list and hopefully get them to buy into what it is you think is most important or easiest to work on. All right. Our next question comes from Vicky K in Sydney, Australia. Vicky says, hey, Mark, how much money can I charge for my pickleball lessons? Oh, Vicky, I knew someone would ask this question. This is the worst. And it's the worst only because it's the hardest. I don't actually know what the answer is, Vicky. You're in Sydney, Australia, right? Sydney is a pretty expensive city as it is, right? For most goods and services. I was there a couple of years ago. We did some training. Coffee can be like $6, right? Just for a regular cup of coffee. Like the overall price of things in Sydney is higher. So I would say that the same extends to pickleball. And this is true not just in Sydney, Australia, but any real market, anywhere. Things cost different amounts in different places. And that can be the same for pickleball lessons. The amount I would charge for a pickleball lesson in New York City is going to be very different than the amount I would charge for a pickleball lesson in rural Saskatchewan, right? Because they just are different markets. And what's tricky about this is kind of landing on what is exactly the right price. And I don't know, but I can suggest a few ways that you can kind of figure it out for yourself. First, you should check out, like, what are the competitors offering? So in Sydney, there's a lot of pickleball coaching that goes on there. So I bet you could go on online and find different clubs that are offering pickleball lessons, and you can see what the going rate is for private or group lessons. Or maybe people have individual Facebook pages. Or I bet you could even just kind of ask around, or you might see some flyers. So that's the first place to stop, is to see, like, okay, well, what is sort of the going rate here? Because if you price yourself too low, sure, you might get some people who come out, but you're also kind of indicating that maybe this isn't of such value, right? Why are Vicky's lessons so cheap? There's got to be something wrong with them. So that's something to do, is check out what the market, where the market is right now. Second thing to consider is, what is your experience when it comes to coaching, when it comes to playing? Who are you able to work with? Are you able to work with anyone from the brand new beginners up to the 4-5s? Okay, well, that's like a pretty special skill set, and I think you can charge a little bit more money for that. Or are you someone who, you yourself are sort of capping out at like 3.75 as a player, and so you're really working more with the beginners? You might be a very effective coach with the beginners, but that price point is probably going to be a little bit lower because of that. I also think you should consider your reputation in the community. How much have you been coaching there? How much have you contributed there? There's many factors. So this might be a dissatisfying answer for you, Vicky. I'm sorry, but it really depends from place to place. Check it out. Even give some feedback. Like, when you do your pickleball lessons, maybe you do a survey afterwards, anonymous, and you say, hey, we charged X amount for this lesson. Do you feel that price was low, fair, or high? Right? And if you're getting a lot of feedback from a lot of different players kind of saying the same thing, that will be a good indicator as well. So good luck out there running your pickleball business. Hope it goes great for you. Let me know. All right, we're getting near the end of the show, and this is where we'd like to give you a pickleball coaching quick tip, something that will make your life easier on the court right away. And my tip for you today is to don't think about pickleball spots when you're thinking about targets. Think about spaces. Think about spaces. Here's an example. Let's say that you're working on returning serve deep in the court. Don't just put a cone out there at 3/4 court and tell your players, hey, try to land on the cone. No, give them a space to aim for. Hey, try to land that ball between the cone and the baseline. That's going to be a more realistic target. A ball that's 6 inches past the cone is going to be better than one that is landing on the cone. So think in spaces rather than spots. Your players will thank you. All right, thanks for joining us for this episode of Pickleball Coaches Podcast. I'd love to know what you think about it. Send me an email, info@pickleballcoachinginternational.com. If you have a pickleball question that you'd like us answered, especially if it's a coaching question, you can send it there. Check out PCIpickleball.com if you want to be a pickleball coach. Our instructor certification program is all online, makes it easy for you. And of course, Selkirk TV, your best online spot to get all sorts of great pickleball content. See you next time.